Hi, Marion. We're seeing people come on as real as my djembe teacher says, humanoids, live beings who are ready to make music. I want to make sure that the other people, if they want to be bringing themselves to life, that they can. So I'm Ginny Atherton. I'm right this moment in sunny California on a day that isn't quite as hot as we've had recently, but we are very aware of the challenges in the other parts of our country. And if any of you are in the rain-soaked east and southeast, know that we're all thinking of you. Really know that. Yeah, there are people. I used to go to Brevard in the summer. Anybody else here went to Brevard? You can sort of raise your hands, and that will even show up, I think, on a tile that your face is not on. Is that true, Noah? If they put their hands up? Has anybody ever summered at the Brevard Music Center? Beverly?
No.
No. Oh, okay. All right. Let's see if that hand raise does work, Noah, because maybe Beverly was trying to raise her hand there because her screen lit up as green. Hi, Judy. Judy just came on. Great. So we're welcoming everybody from all different parts of the country. It's hard to know where you're all from. And presumably everybody is connected in some way to the National Flute Association. And I'm wondering if any of you have been to a recent convention. Like San Antonio was a lot of fun last year. Yeah, so you can put your cursor on the reactions and find the wave hand sign. Let us know, okay? Or Phoenix 2 years ago. Anybody at the Phoenix convention? And I missed the one. No, I didn't. I went to Chicago too, just to see if what they were doing in Chicago with warm-ups was going to be redundant, or if I was going to be redundant to that when I made a proposal for Phoenix. And I came home from Chicago saying, no, it's not going to be redundant. Yay, I can make a proposal. So I recommend that to everybody is if you have an idea, check out what they're doing currently in the convention before the one you decide to apply for. Was helpful to me. And then in 2019, I did a small lightning session for the articulation SOS. Now you see in your meeting chat, there's a bunch of, there's 7 links and they all open. So they can be opened right now, but you might want to wait a little bit, but just sort of notice they're not exactly in the order I put them in. It's a PowerPoint for the articulation SOS, and the Pi Day is right under that. The one directly under that where it says reflect and refresh, which is the title of this session, is basically the table of contents of the other 6. And it should have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 altogether, but reflect and refresh is the table of contents for these other links. Is everybody seeing 7 links in the chat? Noah, they're not seeing them.
They should be up as files, kind of just in the, oh, you know what? It's probably because they joined after I added them, so I'll just go ahead and re-add them.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, that should not.
That's why we've got Noah. Yay, thank you, Noah. Good.
No problem. Okay, let me know if they're up there. They should be up there now. Perfect.
Yay, good. Okay, so the one that says reflect and refresh is the table of contents, a little bit annotated. So some of them are books that are the resources that are directly relevant to this session from my own library. And then the others on the table of contents that are these links to lesson plans or articles or handouts as per the titles. So I want this to be helpful to people. Noah and I were talking earlier about how it's really important to feel fresh when we do our warm ups, and we don't always feel that way because a lot of us learned how to do warm ups a long time ago. And it kind of got routine and not so much what I call ritual. And during COVID, I learned how to turn the routine into ritual, which got to be much more centered and heartfelt. And from that evolved a much closer relationship with my instrument and with the music and the actual notes that I was playing in the warm up. And I'd always been kind of intrigued by how useful the moiste, beginning, descending, half steps, etc., were, because I was very in touch with the motion and the breath relationship to the lengthening and your shortening of the tube, and he even talks about that in De La Sonority. I was always aware of that, but I got more even in touch with all that when I started the warming up to the 4 directions in my studio. This studio here in California, in Tahunga, which is the northern end of, it's a sort of a kind of an urban suburb of Los Angeles. And my house is magically on a canyon with sunset views from my studio. So we break for sunsets some days. And then I can see North Mountains. And from this, my home office, I can see Northeast Mountains. And it's a really great place to stand and play and look out, no matter what the weather is. I can look into the distance or I can look into my heart, whichever way I want to go. So I developed these warm-ups to the 4 directions, which gives a little nod to our Native American heritage of 4 direction work with drumming and all kinds of other music related spiritual practices from many cultures in the time of day, which relates to Indian music, subcontinent Indian music. So I would like this to be useful, and I want to know what kinds of things you would like to share with us in terms of what your practice has been, what you love about your current practice, what you wish for your current practice, how you might imagine something else, and I'll share as quickly as possible. I'll go down a couple of the things here, the Pi Day and the articulation SOS and the intrigue and engage material. And maybe you want to apply it to something that you'd like to do. So if there's a brave soul or just somebody who has something they would really love to share that they love or that they worry about or whatever. As my daughter-in-law would say, crickets. The articulation SOS is something I started with my students in order to get them to play a string of notes rather than huff and puff between their first repeated notes that they play. Because, you know, the kid will play and then they hyperventilate and all that kind of stuff. So I just would say, okay, everybody say after me, or even before that, tell me. I'm not going to say that first. Okay, I'll do exactly as I do it with the group. Did it da 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 did it. How many sounds did you hear?
Did it da 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 did it. 3, 4.
Did it da 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 did it. How many sounds did you hear? You can put it in the chat if you want.
4.
That's fascinating. Oh my gosh. Just like the kids, nobody said 9.
I said 5.
So say it to yourself.
Did it da 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 did
it. 9. So it's 3 letters. S is 3 dots in Morse code. O is da da da. Okay. and then there's another S. So we didn't get to take a breath between each one of those. And we did have to use our tongue. And it is worth noting that if we use T or D, it matters. And so that all those little things go into a warm-up for articulation. And in the articulation SOS, it gives you some fun facts in there along with other stuff. But how I apply it is with the worksheet that's also in there. The kids write, that gives you the whole Morse code with numbers and letters, and they have to write out their own name. And now they're going to own the string because it's their own name. So they get to practice it. First, they practice it on just the mouthpiece, and then on whatever instrument they're playing, wind instruments, but on one pitch. And then they can start doing it, their whole name. You just go up the scale and do it that way, or you can change each letter and do it on a different note of the scale, or you can change it around all kinds of different ways, whatever suits you, but keeps you engaged in making a plan, but gives you some kind of new material to do it with, and it interrupts that huffing and puffing thing, and it gives us, as whatever speed we want to practice. We can even use double tonguing and triple tonguing if we want. Why not? We can make it up as we want, no matter how advanced we are, and just suit it to ourselves. So that's the articulation SOS. The whole SOS thing then got applied. Ooh, I like the harmonics, Natalia. Wow. And the fat, strong, low register. These are, okay, so Natalia loves warming up with harmonics. I thoroughly agree with that. I love it. And the fat, strong, low register, I guess, is an aspiration. I have to say, Yvonne, where's Yvonne on the screen here? There she is. My fat, low register has always been one of my strengths, like strong, okay? And then it wasn't. And I took my flute to my tech, and he said, I see why. So everybody make sure that when you lose something that you thought you had in terms of tone, timbre, whatever, check with your most esteemed tech, because they can work magic on it. And they won't necessarily work it in one go. And so the man here, did it, and he said, this is good for a whole year, come back anytime free. I went back because it still wasn't right. And he fixed that, and then I played something else, and it wasn't right, and right there in front of him, and he fixed it. And yay, my flute's back. And so is the strong low register. So just a caveat on low register. So all kinds of things can get in our way with the work that we want to do on the low register. So the articulation SOS and the using it as a source material for creating a motif to practice, in this case tonguing, came to powerful conclusion, kind of development in March 2014, when that Malaysian airline went down into the ocean. And kids showed up at my first period class consumed by the tragedy. What happened? How could that possibly happen? Who went down? We got the manifest list of the children on the list, and each one of them adopted a kid, and we learned their names in Morse code. And then we took it to some conventions and played it, and we did it in the dark as if these kids were lost at sea. And this is elementary and young middle school kids, and it helped them work through the tragedy. Unfortunately, we've got people missing all over the place, again, in tragedies. And it's a way to honor, and we can do it ourselves just personally with people in our family. Turn what you're practicing as a warm-up into a little motif that honors somebody that you care about. And that brings it into a different emotional relationship when you play the warm-up. For me, it does anyway. One school that I work at wanted next week, mind we see the kids once a week, they wanted next week for the kids to play Lift Every Voice and sing on their instruments in an assembly. Well, no way. Okay, so, but they had been doing the SOS for their names, and what we did was we took the names of the 4 little girls in Birmingham in the Baptist church that were bombed when the church was bombed, and we adopted them, and we did their names, and we played that. And we turned out the lights, and we had the kids in 4 corners of the auditorium, and they did it. So I know that attaching something emotional to our warm-up motif is a way to own it and play with it so that you can totally play with it. None of that had anything to do with rhythm and beat until a school that I'm working at now, which bought marching drums. The principal said when I got there, I have a vision. I love music. I want a marching band in elementary school on 1 day a week. No way. I uncharacteristically kept my mouth shut and listened to his vision. And then I contacted the rep for the music company that serves most of the schools down here now. And I said, can we get kid-sized, decent marching drums? And we did. We got pearl drums, and they're wonderful, and the kids love it. And if you do OES in Morse code, it makes a fabulous cadence. And so Osceola Elementary School, it's, and the whole school knows the cadence now, so they can all go. And the kids march around with the drums and the winds play, and we own it is the point. So the point here is owning the material. So the source material can be names. Think Elgar and Nimrod. So that's in there under the Pi Day handout, and the whole story of the Nimrod connection is there, and how to access that kind of thing and play around with yeah, your friends, your 14 friends. So that's a great story, and it took a long time to figure it out. And I'm kind of proud. I was one of the people that cracked the code on Pi Day, because I picked up my flute and played the numbers of pi on Pi Day at one of my schools just for the hell of it, right? And I heard it. I went, oh my God, that's what it is. That's the Nimrod theme. And I couldn't wait for recess to run down the hall and talk to another nerdy person who taught 5th grade and say, I think I cracked Nimrod. And he said, I think so. And he called his friend who's teaching math over at the high school, and he's a composer. And he said, yeah, that's it. So it turned out somebody else had recently also cracked it, because many years before that, I couldn't find it online. And then eventually it came up that somebody had cracked it about the same time I did. So things are in the universe at the same time. Now, the sort of assignment today was have reconsidered your moyis, right? And when I said follow his directions exactly, the ones I meant were, anybody want to put it in chat? What do you think the directions were that I had in mind that are so magical? Much of it's very good. It's still good, perennially good. 100 years later, it's still good stuff. But okay. And I'll put in a little advertisement here, Jennifer and Noah. What's the week? I don't have it up on my board that the other person is doing a Moyes related session. I think it's in the early spring, late winter. So we can give a little shout out to people about coming, making sure they sign up for that.
I don't know off the top of my head. However, I can find that in the
It's in the promotional material. It's right there. It's yeah, if you can just call up the promo email.
Yeah.
It's like on the third bank of them down there. Yeah. So anyway, somebody doing that. So let's see. Maybe I'm okay. I'm going to roll this down. Yvonne did hear 9. Great. And Judy heard 5. Oh, okay. Right. So the low, strong low register is prominent. I think so. Oh, yeah. Appreciate your text. Yay. I agree, everybody. Yes, accuracy is a good thing. On a sidebar, my copy is, oh, Judy. Wow. Did you study with him in Vermont? Where'd Judy go? Where'd you
No,
go?
I was a senior in high school and he came down to UW-Madison in Wisconsin for a master class. And I went up and he autographed my book and he put the staff with A and E on it, L'Ami des Flutists,
Oh,
in my book.
wow. Oh, that's great.
Cherish
That's
it.
great. Yeah. What do you remember from the master class?
Nothing actually. I remember him rolling on stage in this chair and that, but I was a senior. I can't remember anything.
That's interesting. He came to Philly too, to Curtis, and I took a trainload of kids up, and we went to the class up there. I had not been so fortunate as to study in Vermont with him because I had chosen those years to go to Brevard for the whole summer instead of, a week or two in Vermont. And it was the right decision for me, but I still wish I could have done it all and gone to Vermont too. But I'll remember, yeah, him coming on, just a tiny, tiny person at that point, right? But the minute somebody started to play, his eyes just sparkled. He lit up completely. And I'll never forget that. And in Anne McCutcheon's book, she mentions that too, that his eyes were the thing that people noticed, that it just showed that he was receiving it all and enjoying it all. And I think it would have been great to have had more exposure to that. So all right, so I have to tell you, everybody, right? What I think is the magical thing is all the way to page 24. If you've got it, go there. And it's his chapter on the management of tone in interpretation. And I think this goes for warm up too. So it can be done in small motifs as well as longer phrases. The process, he says, it's down to the 4th paragraph, play the andante right through in a soft tone pianissimo, no matter what the dynamics are. Don't apply anything. This will constitute the outline. Carefully observe the tempo, etc., and no accents. Here the melody will emerge, so to speak, in all its nakedness. And so a lot of times when we pick up a piece in sight read, it's tempting to look at all the details. And in fact, Essential Elements Book 2 tells the kids to look at all the details and do it right from the beginning perfectly with everything in place. And that is a skill too. And that's, of course, what you have to do when you do a little audition for honor band or something. But then it goes on. He says, play the andante over again twice. So this is now 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. Still bearing in mind the above remarks, but this time including the dynamics. This will still represent the outline, but now with contrasts of light and shade. Oh boy. Number 3, and this is on page 25. Play it over again twice as before. So this is now 5 times through the same excerpt, but now with expression. And then he explains what he means for expression. And let's see. Oh, the back in set 1 there, he says, very importantly, no vibrato. And I find that's a really important thing, is to find the center to the tone and develop the center to the tone in my warm-up each day. and really enjoy the motion of the fingers and the subtle difference between in the intervallic difference that you have to make in order to achieve the Moïse ideal of homogeneity of tone from note to note, because it's with homogeneity that then we can depart and add variations of timbre, which is one of my favorite things to do. But without remembering that it really is foundational to me daily to do it with no vibrato to start with and enjoy the actual natural vibration of the tool that I'm working with and get the most out of that before I start decorating it with this other stuff vibrato. A couple of years ago, there was during the pandemic, I believe, or maybe it was just before the pandemic, Amy Porter did a session, a whole week, almost a week-long session online on vibrato, and she had an adult student who was on the faculty of the medical school, was a throat specialist, put down a camera down her throat. So Judy's nodding her head. Did you see that session? Did you go to that? But it was really interesting because she submitted herself to this thing going down her throat to see the vibrato, and it was like, what's going on, right? So, and the thing is, it's a color. It's not the tone itself. It's a color, and I remember years ago. Did anybody here go to the convention in Philly back in the early '80s when Henry Brandt did a huge piece in the whole hall, as many flutists as he could have? And he stood on the stage in his red sweatsuit with red tops and red bottoms and red shoes, which was his trademark. And he gave us directions. He said, "No vibrato, please." And I was kind of in the middle somewhere, and everybody around me was throbbing away with vibrato. They could not turn it off. And yet his aesthetic was, he wanted to hear the piece with the actual naked tone, if I can go back to Moïse here, the naked, basic, fundamental sound that came out of the flutes. And he didn't get it. He didn't get to hear his piece, and we didn't get to play it because people didn't follow his directions because they couldn't. I think, I've tried to remediate some high school kids that would come to me with vibratos that were, it's hard to remediate when it becomes the basic sound. So now let's see, I'm going to go down here. Noah, keep me honest here with people who are writing things in here. Okay. A treasure hunt, January 26th. So tell us about it. Who's talking? Who submitted that? Is it Jennifer or Noah? Did you put that up?
We both put, it was both me and Yvonne, and that I believe was the same online event that you were talking about earlier that was just kind of discussed.
Oh, that could be it.
Yeah, the De La Sonorte. Yeah.
Right. Good. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's
the registration link and everything. So that's all you missed.
okay. That's great. And so one is the link and one is the sort of the notice about it. Yeah, Yvonne, I see her initials on there. That's great. Thanks for finding it so that everybody else could know to look for it.
Of course.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to that too. So the thing is, from all this source material, including our favorite excerpts, like maybe the Nimrod theme, maybe the Brahms, or whatever floats our boats in terms of even making up our own set of tones, hanging whatever it is on a breath. And so there's rarely do we intentionally seem to encourage people to play without a beat. And yet we will talk without an actual external beat. There'll be still structure to the sentence, but we may have spaces in between words or even between, as John Cage would do, syllables. And then he puts the period over there, long after he said the last syllable of a word. That would be analogous to our fermata, where we hold our instruments and we hold the whole audience, and then we and then they know it's okay to thank us if they want to, or walk out if they need to. So I like to hang my first tone on whatever breath comes today as the first tone without judgment. That's hard because it's never as pretty and wonderful as perfect as the day before unless you get really, really lucky. And then I take it off my face, turn to my left. It's always to the left because it seems to ergonomically go that way, just because of the way the flute goes away. Take it down. I'm going to the left. Center myself again with the breath. Bring it, reposition, play the same tone to a different direction, because in the room it will be different feedback. So it isn't all about us, it's about the space we're in. And that helps takes the burden off of us too, because we're more observant if we're understanding that it's not just, gee, I had potato chips. Uh-oh, I put salt on my eggs this morning, you know, that kind of thing. So it gives us another factor to blame or to incorporate. And I choose to incorporate it rather than blame it. And then I do the exact same thing in 4 directions, which is something maybe we learned from this guy, right? Do the same thing and don't dress it up. And then turn and do the, and then I add another tone, usually something, well, I have a favorite warm up that's my very first thing each day, and then I make other stuff up. But in the first one, it's just a whole step, no larger than a whole step. And then I hit a note that we all love to hate. Anybody want to put it in the chat?
Sure.
We got a couple that we love to hate. Just throw it in the chat. If you've got a note that you just always. All right. Judy, we're on the same page. Yes, an E3, right? Oh my gosh. So, yeah. High G sharp. Oh yeah, absolutely. I can think of different places where, yeah. So think of all the times that that high E3 and the C sharp on the staff, right? Start a movement or are important to a phrase. They're either the beginning note or yeah, oh my gosh. So, all right, story time. 2 weeks ago, Tuesday, I went to a new music concert in Koreatown in LA. It's in an old speakeasy, a former speakeasy that's stripped down to the bare brick walls and concrete floor. And then they bring in a lovely grand piano if they need it that night, and a couple of oriental carpets and plastic folding chairs for the cognoscenti. So I got there early enough to sit in the aisle seat, second row, and breathe after a busy day, ready to hear some new music. John Luther Adams was on the docket for the first piece, string bass piece, solo string bass. Wow, wonderful piece. And I sat there just calm, glad I found the place, got a parking place. It's a dicey neighborhood. And in bounces a woman who sits in the first row, 4 seats in, and leaves a seat between herself and the 2 people directly in front of me. And they start talking like you do when you're waiting for a concert to start. You make friends with your neighbors. And so she and these 2 people were talking, and she seemed like, she was the one that they started asking questions to. And she admitted that she played the flute and the piano, but she didn't play either of them anymore. She was now devoted to photography. And then she went on about the flute experience. And she said, yeah, when I studied flute, I did 3 hours of practice every day. And the first hour was all Moïse. And then she went on about the next 2 hours. And she said, and C sharp, I just hate C sharp. So at that point, I couldn't just stay being a voyeur to this conversation. I just leaned forward and said, Actually, I love C sharp. It's pesky. It's a problem, but you have to make friends with it. And we made friends with each other, so that was good. And we exchanged information, and I sent her and her flute off to my flute tech, because I think it's going to help her out a little bit, and she thinks so too. But I had a feeling that she had encountered Moise from a different point of view, not from a creative point of view, but from a dutiful point of view, which is different from diligence. Anybody want to agree or disagree with that? Or comment? So I actually gave one of my young private students a sticker recently for diligence. You know, sometimes we give them stickers for memorizing something or whatever, and no, she got one for diligence. I said, "Do you know that word?" She's 11. No, and she's good with words, and she's also a legacy student. Her mom was a good student of mine years ago, and she reads a lot, this kid. So I said, diligence is a really important characteristic to have. I said, and you showed so much diligence today. So now she's very proud of diligence, and I hope she doesn't ever do anything out of duty for her lesson. I hope she stays with the diligence end of it. She's got 3 siblings. She's the second. And the eldest is about to start bassoon, morphing from piano to bassoon at my suggestion. We've got a great bassoon person in my neighborhood here. And so I hope that they catch on to this diligence idea, because duty doesn't make it for me in a lot of cases, especially in the arts. It's got to come from somewhere else for me. So let's see. I'm going to run this down. I have to move my cursor down. G sharp, yes. We've got some agreement going there, huh? Okay, so I like landing in my warm-up as the 3rd note now on the C sharp, because in the excerpt that I'm playing, it has 2. So it goes dum bum, as it interrupts this long line of a melisma. So I would invite people to consider some kind of a lyrical warm-up using the 4 directions, material that you already know and love, or make up new material. Get it from anywhere. Most of these ideas came by way of pigeon to me. And you know, if you sit under an awning with a pigeon on it, you're likely to have something fall on you. And so sometimes I wake up and feel as though some little birdie dropped something into my brain because I wasn't looking, but there it was. And it was something that actually was kind of useful and magical. So I guess I'm also would encourage people to just be so open and relaxed that, yeah, whatever, right? Do something new, do something new, and then run with it. Sort of embrace it and play with it. I don't know if yeah, you can see the sign here. So I created that by manipulating the people at work thing, men at work sign online. And so caution musicians at play. The sense of play in the warm-up is really important to me. Play is serious. Montessori school play is very serious stuff, right? It doesn't mean it has to be a drudge, but play absorbs us, and in a very serious kind of way, and we make art out of play, not just clay. Yeah. So the Pi Day and the 4 directions and SOS are, for me, great sources of material, along with our regular orchestral excerpts. I wish the orchestral excerpt books had not all disappeared, the international ones. That maybe, I don't know if Noah, are you too young to have acquired a library of those?
I don't currently have a library of them. However, at our school library, someone definitely
Oh,
has like a lot of them compiled and in the music section, which is really nice.
yeah. Make sure they take care of them because I understand they're not being published anymore. There were some problems with copyright. Maybe somebody else knows more about this than I do. Patty, do you know? Um, Copyright on some of the works that were included in the international volumes? No? Okay.
Well, I was going to ask Noah, something happened. I was clicking on your attachments in the chat, and all of a sudden my whole screen has shrunk to just the right-hand side, and there's like just the people and all the, things that you should be able to do, like chat. And I mean, I've had a hard time just now finding unmute. So I don't know what happened. And there's a big screen that says Zoom in blue letters, but all the rest of the presentation kind of disappeared somewhere. But
Ooh.
I had the whole collection of international because, I'm old, I'm from way back. And I just decided that those days, the ones that I need to play are in my heart. But looking at them was a little triggering. So I donated them all to a younger flutist in my community orchestra. And she's a member of Greater Portland Flute Society and I hope NFA, I'm not positive. So they're somewhere with another flutist.
That's
But
good.
yeah,
That's
I'm
good.
going to
We don't
donate.
want them to disappear because
No, I'm donating
they're
all my
exciting.
flute music to the Flute Society. It's in my will. But yeah, those were amazing. But now you can get everything on IMSLP. You can just download it and print off the part you need or want to study.
Well, you
It's
can,
amazing.
but I learned about pieces that were out there by having the books too.
Yeah, yeah. The
I was
books were amazing.
it exposed me as a young student to, oh, let's try that one. Oh, I wonder what the whole piece sounds like, and then because it wasn't just out of need for a particular piece that I would go looking for
Yeah.
something. It's like
And then
going to the library and browsing the stacks, right?
yeah. And then back in the day when you auditioned, they would send you the excerpts you were going to play and they would be marked where you're going to play.
But you better be playing those for years before.
Well, yeah, and you better know the pieces backward and forward. That was
Right.
when we were still listening to LPs and finding the solo and all of that. But anyway, I'm done with that. That's another part of my life because I'm trying to enjoy the rest of my flute playing days.
And not feel the rising terror, right?
Exactly. Like, why am I here? Why am I doing this?
Yeah, or standing in a room with a cattle call and it's a piccolo audition and everybody's playing the screaming high as loud as they can go as fast as possible.
Exactly. I'm done. I'm
Yes,
done.
and me too, right? So back at IU with Pellerite in the 60s, he had an orchestral excerpt class and he divided his whole class into 3 sections of 4 flutists. And we met every week to learn all these parts. Because when he went to the Philly after Kincaid named him his successor, he didn't know all the parts the way Kincaid had for the last 25 years. I mean, Kincaid had played that repertoire with Ormandy forever. And so when Pellerite came back to IU, he made sure that we all were learning all the parts and how to play them in the section. And that was invaluable. That was just wonderful. So excerpts are terrific. Deciding what to learn and practice comes from concert repertoire. Yeah. But it's fun to play the things that you'll never play. Let's see, I've never, am I telling the truth? Yeah, I've never played Daphnis in an actual orchestra. Dang. But I sure practiced it a lot. Even the alto flute parts, just in case. Yeah. Marion is in France. Ooh. Well, yeah, a lot of our French music we can get usually at convention. There are people that come and they bring a lot of French music, merchants that have specialized in French music. I don't know that I saw that much this last convention. Who else was at San Antonio? Probably Noah and Jennifer, right? Did you see bins and bins of French music? I didn't. Hmm. Yeah, the Philippe Bernald stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
You can buy the Philippe Bernol from like Flute World.
Yeah. 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 Flute World's very good source. So in Marion, do you live permanently in France? Marion, where is she on here? I don't. There she is.
Um, 6 months here, 6 months US.
Oh wow. Okay. What are you doing in France?
My husband's family is here, so I just split it right now. I'm an artist actually, so I do a lot of painting and printmaking here.
Nice. So it would be interesting to know where other people are actually hanging out, like Husta Copa and Bill Levy and Lena Digga, Seattle area. Hi, Natalie. Nashville. How are you doing in Nashville after the rain? Alexandria, nice central Oklahoma, right? Australia. There was an Australian flute choir came to San Antonio to the convention. They're very good. They came Bolivia. Oh my goodness. Hustacopa? Are you in La Paz? Are you in La Paz? Can't hear you. Unmute.
Huh?
Are you in La Paz?
Yes, I am in La
Are you
Paz.
in the symphony, in the Sinfonica?
I was. I haven't played with them 4 years since from years ago. I played a lot with them, but no, not this year, no anymore.
I played with them in the mid 60s
Oh wow!
for 2 years, right? And the
Wow!
music in the library there, okay, it's a little history. This is completely off topic, but oh well, right? You're here. Oh my gosh. The music, a lot of the music in the library from Finland, from France, from Germany, from East Germany then. It was East Germany. We had to get special diplomatic we could do it through because Bolivia had relations with East Germany, whereas the United States doesn't, okay, or didn't, okay, because now there's no East Germany. But in order to get Beethoven, we had to get from East Germany. And the orchestra had, at that point in the mid 60s, hand copied every single part because it was pre Xerox. Okay. And they didn't have Xerox anyway. All they had was miniature scores of all the works that they did. And so they would hand copy, and you can see in their library probably still those copies of every violin part. You didn't make one and copy on the copy machine. You had to copy everybody's part. Okay. And that's what they were playing from. And I was in the Peace Corps there. And so one of the things that, kind of as Peace Corps, you're supposed to kind of think, well, why did they ask for a woodwind coach? Okay. Which is the country has to ask for the skill. Why did they ask for is to sort of to bring new ideas, right? And so we and several of us who were in service to this project of the Desarrollo de la Sinfónica, we went to all the embassies and we said, please, they need music. And they all sent packets free from their countries. So they've got Sibelius, they've got Debussy, they've got Ravel, Mozart from Austria, lots of it. Okay. So that's what happened there. That's why that library got built. Okay. Music. Right. And then the other thing was the principal flute there, Teofilo Molina. He was a much older person and I was just young. And so I invited him I said, what am I doing as a young person trying to coach a woodwind section where they're all older and more experienced. And to Noah and Mai's conversation earlier, he could play scales and arpeggios around me like crazy, right? So I was thinking, oh, I've got to find out where he is and how am I useful to him? And so I invited him to come play duets. So he shows up at my apartment, and I had been practicing, and on my music stand was a Bach sonata, and he looks at it and he says, "¿Qué es esto? What's that?" And I said, "It's a Bach sonata, duh, right?" And he says, "Bach wrote for the flute?"
Oh,
And then I knew that these musicians had been so isolated back in the 60s, okay? For so long, they didn't know that Bach wrote for the flute. And so we fixed that, okay? And he said, "Que maravilla." He wept. He literally wept because he knew,
wow.
yeah, he knew Bach. And yet they knew so many other things. Discolandia, which is still there, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's
Miguel,
still
Miguel Duarte, is he still alive?
no, he died, I think 9 or 7 years ago, many years ago. Mhm.
Right. So he was in the orchestra, he played violin, and he and his friends they would have a Friday night, just the men, of course, no women, except for me and the other Peace Corps girl, right? They invited us because we were musicians, we were outsiders, so they invited us. And they sit in the dark and they listen, they decide in advance which symphony they're going to listen to and which conductor on the phonograph, right? And they conducted with their lighted cigarettes in the dark. And then they would discuss the interpretations. And we felt so privileged to be included in that male environment. It was because it was all men. And his wife would bring in, tea and cookies, right? A little something there. But oh, it's so nice to meet you. Anything you need from here, just please tell us ever, just, yeah, contact any of us, probably, right? And
Thank you so much for all and the story too. Yeah, I play it in the orchestra, and I saw still there is preserved the scores by hand. But sometimes they have it still, and but yeah, still some years ago, still they did it something by hand. But we have nowadays all the resource on the website, so there is no any problem. But yeah, and now there is more relation with diplomatic relationships, so it's more easier to find things.
yes, it's great. Oh my goodness. This is so wonderful. So who else did we miss? Oh, somebody's going to fix a roof. Yvonne, hope your roof gets fixed. I think she left. Maybe, no, she's still there. Good. A roof leak. Is that from the storm? Yes. Oh my goodness. Well, at least I guess we say at least she's got the roof, right? Great. Wow. Yeah. So I hope that everybody, I think that Noah probably has a nice list of who we all are in this new little club here, right? And that anything anybody wants to share and get in contact, or any number of us are probably very open to that. Yeah. And definitely want to thank Noah and Jennifer and the whole NFA for starting this series. And I think it's going to be an exciting couple of months here to visit each other.
Certainly. Well, thank you for such a wonderful presentation and great connections. That's what a small world. We have a couple more minutes, so if anybody has any questions that they'd like to kind of send in the chat, for a last minute Q&A to fill in our last couple minutes, we're totally open to that idea. So just feel free to fill out anything.
And also, Jennifer, am I correct that the handouts will be available at the NFA website?
We can certainly take care of that, yes. And
Right.
the session will be available on the YouTube channel by the end of the week.
Okay, and also the materials. It's because the materials flesh out stuff that you just it fleshes it out philosophically and also in detail of application.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Right.
if Noah, if you have those files, perhaps you could send them to me,
Yeah.
or share
Okay, so
them.
Noah, do you want to just forward that same email to Jennifer?
I can totally do
Or-
that once we
Or
get off
to
the
Noah, or
actual-
to Noah Klein. That would be yeah, that would be great. And then he can
Wonderful.
put them on the website. That would be cool.
So there are two Noahs?
Yes.
Okay, I wondered about that because
Well-
I saw his name and I thought it was Noah Klein, right?
No, Paul is a wonderful volunteer, our Zoom volunteer for today, and
I
a
see.
terrific, wonderful flutist who I get to encounter in all different ways throughout the year.
Great.
Noah Klein, I get to meet all the time because he's on the staff.
Yeah, he's also wonderful. He's
Yes.
wonderful.
Right. Good. Yeah.
It looks like we do have a question from Natalia, who is asking how you like to practice the upper registers to improve resonance.
With the low notes. No, it all starts with the low notes. I would say number one. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
I really like to do harmonics up there. I feel like that helps me with a lot of my resonance, but that's
Mm-hmm.
it's always a struggle area.
And a yawn.
Mhm.
Keep everything very open. The exercise is to avoid vibrato from the throat. Actually, the vibrato is in the throat. It's like little hugs, and that's something that Amy was able to show through the photographs of her throat that were on that session. It was almost a whole week that she did on vibrato. And it's something that I've always said, if you just say, put your hand on your throat and go hug, 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 you feel their muscles in there. So you can just sort of feel that there's stuff there. And then when Amy allowed her doctor student, the medical guy who was a specialist in the throat, put the camera down and she played the vibrato, that's what was going on.
Oh, interesting. I've heard a lot about that study within recent years, which is amazing. Yeah.
It was, finally they had the technology and the willing participant, the guinea pig with Amy, right? And so, and then she showed it in living color to all of us online there. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So here we listen sometimes the difference between the vibrato from the diaphragm and from here. So should be more around here then.
It is here. It's not from the diaphragm. The diaphragm supports the air column, and the air column has to be solid. And then on the air column, you give the air column the hugs here.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. There was a French horn player in my town here who used to tell all of our flute students, okay, get that. How many French horn players play with vibrato? Not very many. Okay, so she kept saying, oh, you've got to go huffy puffy in your tummy, right, to play vibrato. And the kids would come from band class, which they saw her 5 days a week, and she kept telling them to do this. And then they come to their private lessons, and we'd all say, please don't. So it's a kind of a misunderstanding that's been a long time being cleared up. And so this whole study that was done at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, was where they did it. Okay, so that's, I don't know if they've written it up. I hope they did. And
Yes,
they may they may have that. Yeah, Amy K. Porter at University of Michigan, and you might want to just contact her and see if they have archived even any of that workshop. Anatomy of Sound was the name of the workshop. And she does it she's done it for many years, and each year is a different focus topic. And that year it was vibrato. And that's, it was pretty important because not all the time does the teacher go back and pay the student. So I actually paid like hundreds of dollars to take the course with my former student because I knew she was going to be doing a good job with it. And she did a great job. So it's really worth getting in contact with her for that.
Wonderful. I'm currently not seeing any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording so we can go ahead and wrap up.